Alright, so we're back, of course, to talk about some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we got some juicy shit to talk about today. So, in the beginning of the new Rebirth trailer, we see our characters being gurneyed away by Shinra. Barret's tattoo is missing, like 99.9% certain that his tattoo is missing. This is something that's been talked about since the day the trailer dropped, but on my end, I couldn't like distinguish whether that was true or not, just because like Barret's arm looks really, really dirty. It's hard to make out whether or not you can see his tattoo, but then there's people who've now like taken pictures and like screenshots and like enhanced it and contrast and filters and stuff, and you literally can't see Barret's tattoo on his arm, which has a lot of possibilities here. Before we hop into that, I do want to do a couple quick follow-ups to previous videos. For starters, the Ever Crisis video that we did, the kind of reactions / breakdown discussion, whatever. It's been confirmed now through like interviews that the hooded figure in the trailer that's staring down Sephiroth is pretty much Glenn. It's for sure like Glenn, the blonde-haired character from First Soldier. So you have this translation from Shinra Archaeology Department that says, Tetsuya Nomura says that the Sephiroth we'll see and play as in Ever Crisis is the beautiful, unsullied Sephiroth prior to his descent into darkness. He'll face off with Glenn Lodbrok during a scene that takes place roughly at the same time as Crisis Core. So that should be this scene right here. We talked about this with the reaction video, that character looks like Glenn, obviously. So this should be the scene where, I guess, Glenn and Sephiroth are fighting kind of around the Crisis Core time frame. Does that, like, confirm Glenn's death if he's going to be fighting Sephiroth? Like, this is good guy Sephiroth, right? This is pre-Nibelheim incident, right? But Sephiroth is still a badass. He still murders and slaughters people. There's even scenes from, like, before Crisis where there's just, like, dead bodies around him and blood everywhere. Like, Sephiroth's still kind of a bad guy in some ways, right? He's a war hero, goddammit. But does that mean that Glenn's going to die? But they also, like, give Glenn's full name, Glenn Lodbrok, which that's clearly not Glenn Strife. So maybe that disproves the fucking possibility of him being Cloud's dad. We did have somebody mention Zach Keogh, my boy, he's on like every video, mention in the comments of that video that they do talk about Cloud's dad a bit in Traces 2 Past, and he was like a wanderer or something, and he went off into like Mount Nibel and like died. But if he just wandered off in Nibel and was never found again, that doesn't confirm his death necessarily, right? Like that's kind of a trope in any sort of media, whereas TV shows, movies, video games. Like if you don't see a character death, they're probably still alive, right? I swear I'm not trying to make like the Glenn is Cloud's dad shit make sense or whatever the fuck, but like, why doesn't his dad have a name yet? Like there's characters who didn't have a name until Remake, right? Claudia, like she didn't have a name, neither did Tifa's dad. His name's Brian now, right? But with something like Traces 2 Past that kind of touches on Cloud's dad a bit, what he did and where he went and all that other stuff, like why doesn't he have a name yet? It seems odd that they haven't done that yet. Like it seems like they're trying to hide the name for like some sort of a reveal, right? And the other follow-up I want to do is the video we did yesterday talking about the Easter eggs in the 16 demo. The headache that I showed in the video and talked about isn't the one that plays a sound effect that is similar to Remake. It's the later ones whenever Joshua turns into Phoenix and Cloud starts getting more headaches, and it's very distinctly the sound effect from Remake.
Joshua, are you in pain? Not now. Do your duty.
So yeah, 100% a Final Fantasy VII Remake Easter egg. I do still think the conversation we had stands. Like, the first headache, even though the sound effect's not there, like him like having visions, seeing shit, being haunted by a character and all other stuff, like that still works as an allusion to Remake, obviously. But yeah, that sound effect, 100% Remake. Now, let's get into the good shit. Barret's missing tattoo. So big shout out to ThunderGodDiryn and their wife, apparently, on Twitter for this stuff. Now, their tweets are a little bit older, but I just now was seeing this yesterday. But it says, so my amazing wife, Rhea Star Queen, just made an interesting catch. Where's Barret's tattoo? There's not a hint of it on the arm shown here. Kind of makes the propaganda theory have more bite. Never let a crisis go to waste. So yeah, just looking at the picture that is on this tweet right here, without even going into the other ones we're going to look at, you just can't make out the tattoo on his arm. And the thing is with Barret's tattoo, like it's hard to see it sometimes in like cutscenes and cinematics, but the one thing you can always make out is the black eyes of the skull, right? The eye sockets of the skull. Even in scenes where the tattoo is kind of hard to make out, you can always see these like black circles on Barret's left arm. And just looking at this picture, you don't see that. And it's understandable to maybe not see like the red of like the flames of his tattoo because his arm's kind of dirty, right? But you would still see these big black circles if his tattoo was there. They further follow this up with contrast and exposure enhancement. There is no tattoo on his arm, so yeah, clearly you don't see a tattoo here. And they further follow this up with saying, I saw someone had done a color saturation to try and bring out the tattoo. Look how stark against Barret's skin that is, especially the black ink. This should be very noticeable even from a distance. Either this is a mistake on Essie's part or his tat really is missing. And again, having the side-by-side, you can see how like way different Barret's arm is. So again, yeah, it is either a big oversight by Square Enix, or it's intentional. So, Barret's tattoo is missing. What does this mean? There's a lot of possibilities here. We'll start with what they said in their tweet thread. Shinra propaganda, that's also a possibility, right? Like, let's assume this is Shin are trying to convince the public that they took out Avalanche, or Avalanche got killed in the destruction or the tornado or whatever the fuck. These could be like doubles, crisis actors, some people said, but these could be like fake ass body doubles. They just forgot to give Barret a tattoo, right? Because it wouldn't matter to the general public if he had a tattoo or not. They're just seeing Barret's body, Tifa's body, Red 13, Aerith. I do kind of disagree with the propaganda stuff still, just because like the general public, from what we were shown in Remake, I don't think are ever shown Red 13 and Aerith, so that part doesn't make sense to me if they're trying to convince people. I guess maybe the newsfeed could be like, well, these people, they're all part of Avalanche or something, but still, like, just what we know from Remake, I don't recall if, like, Aerith and Red 13 were on camera, but maybe they were. I don't know. For sure, during, like, the Sector 5 reactor, Cloud, Tifa, and Barret were all on camera, and Cloud's missing in that opening scene right there, so that's why it doesn't make sense to me, too. Like, if they're trying to convince everybody they took out the guy's bomb in the reactor, why isn't Cloud's body on a gurney? That's why I don't think it's, like, body doubles or crisis actors or whatever the fuck. That's my thoughts on that. The possibility, of course, is the video being tampered with by either Jenova or Sephiroth, both, whatever you want to say, because we do see those glitches and shit at the beginning of the trailer, the middle of like the opening segment, and the end of the opening segment right after Aerith, right? We see that shit 3 times. So it's possible it's being altered by one of them for some reason. I don't know why. It would have to be for somebody to see it. Like if it's being altered with, it's like fake footage or whatever. They're wanting somebody specifically to see that, to think those characters are dead. Whether that's Zack or whoever. But Zack wouldn't even know them outside of Tifa, right? He'd maybe recognize Tifa, and even though it's been like a bunch of years and she doesn't have her cowgirl outfit on, like maybe he'd recognize Tifa, so it might not be Zack, it could be other people, somebody else. It could be our group seeing it and being like, holy shit, are we dead? We're seeing our bodies right there on TV or something. I don't know. I don't know what the purpose would be, but it could be obviously Jenova Sephiroth. The other possibility is what we've been talking about for a long time, is that we're in a different timeline, an altered timeline, the ripple effect of the ending, our characters having copies, like all those things kind of fall under the same umbrella, right? Because I've been saying it for a long time. We see 2 Clouds at the end of Remake, right? We see our Cloud leaving, or we don't see us leaving the Singularity, but we see our group on the cliff overlooking Midgar, headed off to Calm. And then you see Zack carrying a Cloud to Midgar, right? And I'm, these days, of the belief that Zack is alive. So there's a second Cloud. We don't see that Cloud, with episode intermission at the end. And there should be copies, in theory, of all the characters that were in the Singularity if we, like, hop timelines, change timelines, whatever, alter the timeline. And the characters that were, everybody was in Singularity except for Cloud, were seen in the opening segment of that trailer. And that's just why I feel like that's what that is. The ripple effect of the ending of Remake is we're in this different timeline, or altered timeline, and those characters died. More on top of the video, like, we'll just call it Terror Timeline, I guess, for the sake of this video. Terror Timeline, the other timeline. Like, this Barret doesn't have that tattoo. Like, this Barret in this other timeline never got that skull flame tattoo, and that's why it's missing there on the shoulder. And it kind of falls in line with the differently designed Yuffie that we see in the trailer, right? We talked about that during, like, the trailer breakdown, the first trailer breakdown video we did. So I don't understand the redesign for Yuffie if there isn't a purpose to it, because it's one thing to just change a couple of things here and there, but they changed a lot on a character model. I don't know why you would do that. Like, they got a character model perfectly fine for episode intermission, so why change it so drastically? I guess one more we could mention is some sort of error on Square Enix's end. Like, there's a different team that does, like, the high-quality cinematics versus a team that does, like, the in-game models and stuff like that. And there's where we get some inconsistencies here and there when it comes to Remake. So the idea, I guess, would be that, like, the team that's doing the high-quality cinematic, the opening part of that trailer, just forgot to give Barret a tattoo. But I feel like that's a reach. Like, because why would they forget that? That's like so when you look at Barret's character model, whether it's the character art from the OG FF7 to what he looks like now, like, his tattoo just stands out. I've always thought it looked kind of weird, honestly, because it's like a flaming skull. Like, I just don't know why it's there. It's just kind of weird. But your attention's immediately drawn to that. So why would they design that opening cinematic and just forget to fucking put this tattoo there? It's just, I can't even say it. It sounds so dumb. It's really the whole cross situation again. Like, we talked about this a lot on the channel. The cross that's at the end of episode intermission that Zack sees in the church, like the brown distinct cross that the camera focuses on. Like, it seems so intentional that they want you to look at that cross, right? But in everything else for, like, Remake, like, the cross isn't there. It's like Remake itself, Crisis Core Reunion, First Soldier, Ever Crisis. We have the cross either missing or the stone cross, whatever you want to call it exactly. Like, there's not a wooden cross there. And then episode intermission there is. And at what point is the wooden cross a part of the Terror Timeline stuff, right? Because I've seen people that want to argue with me about the cross shit. Like, it doesn't matter, it's a dev error, blah, 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 whatever the fuck. But it's like, they believe that the Yuffie redesign, Terror Timeline. The Barret tattoo missing, Terror Timeline. It's like, well, why can't the cross be a part of that too? I don't mean to, like, harp on this cross shit, because it has nothing to do with the video itself right now, but it's like, the cross is something we don't see till post-Remake, right? Till after the Singularity shit, where the timeline shift would have happened. Like, why can't the fucking cross be a part of that? That's all I've been saying this whole time. And I feel like that's what we're seeing, right? We've seen the cross at the end of the episode mission. We're seeing a missing tattoo for Barret. We're seeing a Yuffie redesign. We're seeing copies of our characters that were in the Singularity. Like, I think it all adds up, man. That's just my thoughts on this. Dudes, what are your thoughts on this? We have the side-by-side right here. It's very clear the tattoo is missing. But why is that? Is it dev error? Is it Shinra propaganda? Is it Genova Sephiroth? Is it different timeline, alternate timeline stuff, terror timeline shit? Like, why exactly do you think the tattoo is missing in this moment? This is the video, my dudes. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Social networks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @FF7 That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.